Hello, young man. How are you?
Yeah, man.
Oh my gosh,
CD.
so much.
We're full of energy today, CD. It's truck month.
It is truck month, truck month, truck month, truck month. Three Schultz locations: Schultz Ford Wexford, Schultz Ford Harmer, Schultz Ford South, and West Mifflin. Over 300 trucks available right now. Always online too at schultzford.com.
Bam.
Did you know that? Of course you did.
You're better
Uh,
than me.
yeah, no. But there's tons of news. Free agency. The Steelers are players. They're
So what
getting out there.
happened? I've been out of touch. What's the biggest Steelers news?
Patrick Peterson, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, is coming in to play cornerback uh, in the defensive backfield for 2 years. So that's that. Signs a deal, 14 million bucks, 7 million a year. So that
Where did he
helps.
come from?
Minnesota, but he played in the past in Arizona and other places. So that helps a lot. Larry Ogunjobi got another contract. They lost Cam Sutton, which I know that you wanted them to sign. But linebacker comes in, Cole Holcomb from Washington, that is kind of a guy that I think can really help. That mean, Devin Bush, it was just a big lot of nothing there. And Nate Herbig, they got a guard. So I think it's all lined up now to take that left tackle.
Well, I agree. Except um, Devin Bush. Did we lose him?
Yeah, he's not coming back here. They're not going to make an offer to him. They don't want him. He doesn't want to come back, and he's not good enough. So see you later.
But his contract's up.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't pick up his option. So it'll be Miles Jack, Cole Holcomb, and Mark Robinson playing linebacker inside for the Steelers, which I can live with if Miles Jack gets a little bit better.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So he has a long way to go to be that guy. I hope, maybe just learning the system. And remember, they had the support last year of Brian Flores. So, so they benefited a lot. But I'm concerned about that. I'm still concerned. Do you really think they're going to keep, what's his name? Cam
Hayward?
Yep. You think they'll keep him?
Yes, I think he'll retire a Pittsburgh Steeler. I think what they might do in the second round or so is draft somebody to be an understudy to him bring that person along, and that works. I'll tell you, and this is like a little technical, and I don't know if people want to hear this too much, but what they need to do and what I think they're going to do, they need to start playing three guys along the front instead of just two, and really, really try to get after the quarterback and really stop the run game, because we saw in games last year, that's where they got hurt. They ran the football all over the Steelers.
Right up the middle.
Yep.
Right up the middle. And the other thing that I really would, and for me, if I were doing this, I'm all over the lines, the offensive line and defensive line. That's my focus. You don't need a great cover corner if you don't have enough time to throw the ball. And that used to be the Dick LeBeau philosophy, right?
Well, the corners look a lot better when TJ Watt plays. The cornerbacks look a lot better for the Pittsburgh
100%,
Steelers.
100%. That's exactly right. So I agree with that. I don't know a couple of those players. I don't know Patrick Peterson. I don't know him.
Yeah, he's very good.
You think that sets up a Joey Porter Jr. draft?
That's what I want to get into. And I think that, we talked about this briefly. It might not. I would still go tackle, but I'm afraid of Joey Porter. And I think he's a pro. I think he's great. Do you think it would be tougher or easier for him if they drafted him than going to another team?
I don't understand the question.
In terms of the pressure. Is it?
I think he's a player.
I know that.
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters. I think the young man's a player. I think he's been bred to be a player. I think he is a player. And I think if you remember last week or the week before, I told you when I spoke to Ken Wisenhunt, Ken just glowing reviews about this young guy. He's really the real deal.
I've just been trying to put myself in his brain about if it's easier to get the questions all the time and have a lineage and a heritage somewhere, or if it would be better to be drafted by Tampa or be drafted by Chicago or somebody and just go somewhere where you didn't have to live up to your dad's legacy. It might be really tough in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think it's only tough if you're not tough. I think he can handle it. I think, I really do. I think he can handle it. I think he's really cool. You've seen him play, obviously.
Oh yeah, I've talked to him. I've met him. He's a kid that was not programmed. That's the wrong word because that's a negative connotation.
Actually, it's the right word.
He's been programmed to try to be a National Football League player from the time 100%. He was like 16 years old.
100%. My son went to school with him, went to high school with him. And yes, he has been. And that's not the wrong word. And it's not wrong to be that, right? He plays his heart out. He really does. And what a great family stock to come from and to live up to. But what about forget the live up to? What about the exceeding? He comes in here and exceeds anything his dad did. Pretty good stuff.
Yeah, that's fabulous stuff. A lot else going on. We're just kind of waiting on the draft. The Penguins, I can't figure this out. Have you been following the Penguins much?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's horrible.
This is a topic that people will be talking about in 2 weeks. That is way ahead of everything. Let's say Tristan Jarry wins a playoff series.
No.
Does that erase everything that he did?
No.
Some people think.
No, I know. Some people think, and some people are wrong. No. No, I don't think it erases anything because if you think about this, if you go to the 3-year history here,
right?
In the playoffs 1 year, he was injured, couldn't make it. Then playoffs the next year, he really was really not good. And I think, a good goalie, we would have had a different result. And now we have this year. I didn't see last night's game. Why didn't he play last night?
No, he did. He played.
Casey DeSmith, so they yanked him?
No, they've yanked him 3 of the last 6 starts, I want to say.
Okay. Because I saw in the highlights, Casey DeSmith was the goalie. And so I wondered if maybe he just didn't play last night.
No, he played. And this is the thing. If he wins a playoff series, right, somebody's going to pay him $6 million a year. Well, that's going to happen.
Crazy. Somebody's crazy. That somebody wouldn't be me.
Oh, it wouldn't be me either. But it just goes to show we've tried for now 3+ years to get a firm grasp on what we think Tristan Jarry is. And it's going to be measured by 1 playoff series. That's it. And it comes down to this year. There are people that are convinced that if he wins a playoff series, he should re-sign here.
It doesn't matter what he should do or shouldn't do. I'll tell you what he won't do. He will not be back here next year.
Oh, my God. No matter what.
No matter what. No matter what. I'll make a gentleman's bet, $1. He will not be back here next year, no matter what.
Did you know?
Go ahead.
Did you know there's another big story with the Penguins that's happening?
No.
A huge story involving fans with the Penguins. A gigantic one.
I don't.
They're blowing out a bunch of seats behind the home bench, and they're making one of those kind of bunker clubs to where you watch the team walk in and do that. A second one like that. No. And they're gonna start charging a lot more for those tickets down there.
Well, have you used our tickets?
I've used ones just by yours.
Yeah.
Like about 4 seats over. Is it high time to do that? Or I've been knocking this around in my head. Sid and Gino and Tanger aren't going to be here forever. Is that asking too much from people? Or is this the time to strike?
I mean, I think they're pretty hot. I don't think if you look at it financially, I don't think it matters. I think they'll do fine. I don't think it's going to hurt. I also don't see Malkin coming back next year.
Okay. Would you try to trade him?
I would. I'd start. This would be my quest for youth. I would really start to build around youth right now. Speed and youth, and they do go together. That's really what I'd be looking for right now.
Well, then I think those.
Are we locked to make the playoffs?
No,
I don't think we are.
Well, then those two things marry each other. Okay, in terms of the building not being full all the time and trading of Evgeny Malkin. If they traded of Evgeny Malkin, would they take a hit from the fan base to where they were waving the white flag, or would people understand that there would be a turnover happening in the organization and that's just what happens and you've got to try to build for the future?
I think that, and I'm not advocating that we lose Malkin. I'm predicting and looking at the predictors. And, here's the one thing, though, that you can't get past. Malkin and Sydney both of them have not missed the game this year.
Right.
That's pretty big. I mean, I don't know. Does that happen often? I don't think it does. I would bet that's the first time that's happened with those two players in the past 5 years.
Every single year, seemingly at about this time, we're talking about how many regular season games does Malkin need to play to get ready for the playoffs as he'd been out injured? Or Crosby missed a couple games here and there. When does he need to come back to get in playoff shape? We've not talked about that this year because, as you're right, they've not missed any games. They've not been the problem, those three guys.
They are not the problem. But the problems are really, I think, some of the choices. Some of the players haven't showed up. But it's not those three. Those three guys are locked always, right?
Do you think they ever fire Mike Sullivan or his seat gets hot just because they're hitting their head into the same wall again and again and again?
Well, I don't. That's tough. I don't think Mike Sullivan should ever be looked at as somebody to be fired. To me, he's a lock like Tomlin. I love Mike Sullivan. I don't think he's the problem. Who's the general manager?
Well, Brian Burke is the general manager along with Ron Hextall. That's kind of a double-headed situation.
Yeah, I think those two guys got to really look at some of the choices and decisions they've made in personnel, and I think that it's not Mike Sullivan. It's not a scheme. It's none of that. It's the players. Players have to play the game.
Well, it's funny. I was watching the Pitt basketball game last night, and that's where this comes in. The Penguins haven't made a run. The Steelers haven't won a playoff game. The Pirates are the Pirates. And I think that's why we latched onto this Pitt basketball team some. We are thirsting for a playoff run in games of consequence in this town so much because, Richard, to be honest with you, this is the longest drought we've had in a long time in terms of real exciting postseason play. We haven't had it. The Steelers can't win a playoff game. The Penguins can't win a series. Pitt basketball kind of went in the tank, and finally they're back, and the Pirates haven't done anything in a long time. We want so bad to have a playoff run with anything. And it's unlike us. It's like in our lifetime. This is a big drought.
But it's really not unlike us. The Pirates have never been since when? We Are Family. What was that?
79. But the Steelers and the Penguins, generally, at least one of them are playing very well.
Steelers, as you know, have shown us nothing in the playoffs for a long time. Go ahead.
Yeah, 3 playoff wins in 13 years. You're right.
That's not good. So we're not really used to that wonderful victory from the Steelers. We're still going legacy. We're looking prior to those 13 years. Those 6 trophies are all from 2006 and behind, right?
They sure are. So are you telling me that they're living in the past then?
I think so. I think that, thinking about it, especially Pirates, we know them, 1979. Steelers, I think living in the past. But the problem is there's so much potential. Pittsburgh Steelers have so much potential. And I just don't understand why we haven't achieved that. And then, of course, when you go to the Penguins, I really don't understand because there is nobody. Sidney Crosby, finest player, one of the best players ever to play in the NHL. Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang. Where do you ever assemble a trio like that? Again.
Well, that's why I think it was a glaring error, and it's not hindsight. People screamed at this offseason. You had to go out and match that talent with a goalie. You had to acquire someone that could play.
I would have sooner seen Fleury back there than any of those guys. I really would have. And that decision might have been one that hurt us.
I agree with you because where they are right now, I just don't think you're going to find a lot of experts or people that follow hockey or people that cover hockey pick the Penguins to make a run because they're probably not going to.
I'd like to get Phil Bork on here.
Oh yeah,
I would.
let's do it.
I would. I mean, I really would because, boy, I respect his hockey brain. Not much else about him though. Just kidding. I love him. Borky!
Well, how long can there be a drought though to where you say, all right, look, because this will be like 5 straight years if they go out in the first round. Will you say, listen, maybe we're hanging on to even Sid and maybe we're hanging on to even Letang for just too long and it's time for a full-on rebuild?
Well, boy, it's so hard for me to answer that because I don't want to be disrespectful to any of those guys because individually and collectively I love them. But I'm more towards, if I'm running the business, I'm more towards, okay, let's revamp.
Right, because you just talked about nostalgia, and that's I love nostalgia too. I love all the stuff in the past, but it's kind of like, what if Colorado came with a package deal for Sid and they wanted to trade and pick up his salary and gave you 4 young prospects?
You got to do that. I don't know about Sid though.
See, you won't. Why won't you do it?
Because look at the way he plays.
Huh.
Colin.
Yes.
Phil Bork, the old 2-9er. I have you. I'm calling from my broadcast, and I will take you out if you want to be out. Can I talk to you on the air?
Right now? I thought you meant next week.
You sure? Yeah, right now. It's only Colin Dunlap. He's, he
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind? Because I just said you're the only one whose hockey brain I really respect. Not much else. You're so great. And by the way, you need to teach me how to do this. Congratulations. I heard you're a new papa again.
He's on the phone live. This is incredible.
Yeah, okay, we don't need to talk about that. This is live. I'm going to put you on. You ready? Oh my God, that's why I love you. Hold on. Okay, you there?
I'm here, sir.
Okay, Colin, this is the old 2-9er.
Oh, I see. Yeah, unbelievable. We were talking about this. Phil, can you hear this?
Crystal clear.
If Jari wins one playoff series this year, can you give him $6 million?
What's plan B?
See, I told you, Richard, someone's going to pay him, and that someone might be the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when he's healthy and he's dialed in, he's one of the best goalies in the league. And I know you're roll your Browns on that, and that's fine. Because lately he has not proven that. But it's easy to forget when he's really dialed in and good. Because that's what we do here in Pittsburgh. Whether it's your star quarterback, your number one. Never mind. I was going to say pitcher, but never mind about that. But let's say it's your quarterback, your starting goaltender, right? That when they're bad, we want to kick them in the teeth. When they're good, we want to wrap our arms and legs around them. So I'm just maybe not as fair weather and emotional as other people, because when I back a guy, I'll critique him, but I'll back him through and through because my heart tells me he's one of the best young goalies in the league and he needs to get healthy.
Man, you know what? If I were to make a coaching change ever anywhere, the old 2-9er would get the call.
Well, thank you, but I'm going to keep my day job because that coaching gig, man, you're one phone call away from being on the brick. So I like job security and I love what I do, but I appreciate the compliment.
No, seriously, Phil, you really are. And I think it's kind of what we were just talking about, Colin, right? Because I said we fall in love with the legacy.
Absolutely. But, my point was, too, we've tried to find everything we could out about Tristan Jarry for 3 years now in the postseason. And his entire existence here in Pittsburgh is going to come down to one series, I think. If he gets out of it, he keeps his job. If he doesn't, he might not here in Pittsburgh.
Okay, well, I'd like you finish that equation, and I will just humor you. Okay, let's just say that the Penguins get to the playoffs. First round, he's not good. He's an unrestricted free agent, so you're just going to say, thank you for your time here, Tristan. Sayonara. See you later. And you're going to get who? Who are you bringing in that's as good, if not better than him? Because you're going to need a starting goaltender.
And you're right. And they're generally not in free agency. So that's a very good point by you. And DeSmith hasn't taken that job. That's for sure. I just wonder if they can, and if they can go another year and still not know what they have in a playoff goaltender in him and pay him $6 million.
Colin, everything you're saying holds water. I'm not trying to persuade you one way or the other. It does make for healthy conversation. It really does. Because it's such an important position. You talk to anybody that's got to the promised land, the first thing they'll talk about is their goaltender getting there. And teams that have stumbled and fallen flat on their face, they'll say the same thing. Well, we didn't get the save, right? And that's what makes that position so incredibly important in a team game. I just have a hard time giving up on him as quick as someone. I'm not saying you, Colin or Richard, but a lot of people, when he plays the way he's been playing lately, people want to kick him to the curb very quickly.
That's true.
All I'm saying is take a second, step back, look at the big picture before you make that decision.
That's really wise, Phil. You said this and kind of made it broader than the game of hockey. How would you parallel that? Do you feel like you can talk about that? Say the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you're a loyal guy. You're old school. You're in it to win it. You're not leaving anybody, and I get that, and I love that about you. But when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, we haven't been very successful there either. How do you feel about that? How does that kind of resonate to you too? What do we do? We've had conversations about, Mike Tomlin. We've had conversations really that was more focused about Ben Roethlisberger at one point. Did we give up on him? We didn't, but we also don't have the results. What do you think about that?
There are some incredible similarities, and you're right. And where they lie for me, Richard, are goaltending, quarterback, head coach. Both coaches have been around longer than a lot of other coaches in the league stick around with the same team.
Yeah.
So here's the challenge to both Mike Tomlin and Mike Sullivan, is to get a little bit more creative in the way that and I'm not going to say motivate, because you're not there to motivate. If you're coaching high school, then you're a motivator, right? When you're coaching in the NFL or the NHL, you're not a motivator. You need to be a hockey coach, but also what's the most challenging thing, especially for the star players. And if you've won before, like Tomlin and Sullivan, with said star players, that sometimes the lines get blurred, Richard, where you almost fall into that friendship, you know what I mean? Where it's the buddy, right?
Yes.
And how do you discipline and hold accountable a player that you've become more friends with, and you don't want to jeopardize that working personal relationship? Maybe I'm getting a little too deep here, but really that's the whole sports psychology of all of this, is being that disciplinarian and holding your players accountable and having consequences when they don't do what they're supposed to be doing on said playing field. How do you hold them accountable and still be able to hold that personal, professional relationship?
Bam. I mean, I think you just
Fantastic.
hit that out of the park. Yeah, you just really hit that out of the park.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And that's, I really just, and I apologize for calling you offhanded like that, but I've really wanted to talk to you for a long time. And I knew that your input and your content was amazing. Your insight is amazing. I love the parallel. But what's the answer to that? How do you do that?
The answer is whoever is above Tomlin or above Sullivan, just talk to him, have a heart to heart, and just say, this is what we need. I have your back on this. That if you have to sit, let's just use Evgeny Malkin as an example. If you have to sit Evgeny Malkin, then sit his butt down. Yes. Sometimes no words need to be spoken. And I'm not saying you have to, because Gino's been really good this year, but I'm just trying to use it as
you're just using an example. I get it.
As a star player, sit him down, because the most valuable thing to all players, I don't care what sport you're talking about, but especially when you get to the elite sports, the elite level of said sports, nothing's more valuable than playing time, right? Yes. And sometimes if you just say, hey, hold on, Gino, hold on. So and so go out there instead of Gino. You don't have to say a word. Players have had that happen to them many times before, and the same with football. If so and so's just normally running out of the field and he's not doing his job, just say, oh, hey, Ricky, hold on a minute here, hold on. Hey, Jimmy, you go out for Ricky. You don't have to say another word. They're going to get that message loud and clear. And that's something that we have not seen Mike Tomlin or Mike Sullivan do. What happens behind closed doors, and I could be completely off base here, is probably a lot different than what we see on whether the ice or the field, what we see in the press conferences. I get all that. But at the end of the day, I have not seen Tomlin or Sullivan sit a player when they don't perform into the team concept of the game plan. And that to me is something that maybe I'm the old school guy and the old guy in the room, Richard, but I always thought that was the most effective way to get your message across.
I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm just smiling from ear to ear because, this is gold. You're gold.
Yeah.
And you really are. And man, you're right back to the basics. I think it makes such perfect sense. Your analogy of not a cheerleader. It's not high school. I mean, I love all that. Everything you said, Phil.
Just circle back on Tristan. I want to say one more thing is let's make sure we have all the information before we start making decisions on Tristan Jarry, because there's a lot of speculation on his health, right? And so we better know for sure. And again, maybe it's the old school in me that when a player's out there, I just assume he's 100%, right? But
right,
not 100%. Let's find out what's wrong with him. Let's get him right. And I'm not talking between the ears. I'm talking below the neck. If something is not right, let's get him right. Okay, because he is such an integral part of what the Penguins could possibly do here down the stretch run and hopefully in the playoffs.
Awesome stuff.
Right out of the park, Phil. Phil, I'm going to call you back if that's okay, because I do want to talk to you. Phil, am I allowed to say you had a new addition to your family?
Just did.
B-E-A-U, Bo Bork. I just thought it was a good hockey name. You guys concur?
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, sir.
That's great. I love alliteration. That's great. Okay, thanks, Phil. Thank you so much. Okay, see.
There you are. See? That works.
How about that?
Good stuff, Richard.
How about that?
Yes.
The old 2-9er is the man. I got to tell you, I told you I respect everything about him, first of all, but really his hockey IQ is amazing.
Oh, yeah. The evaluation process of Jarry is ongoing, and it has to happen quickly after the season. That's for sure.
Yeah, it really does. Hopefully the season lasts a lot longer than
a couple more weeks. Yeah. Yes. Well, great stuff. We'll talk next week. That was fantastic, Richard.
Phil, thank you.
Absolutely.